What's good guys, welcome to a new video. So if you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Michael and I'm documenting my trading journey on YouTube. So if you're in that mindset right now of get rich quick and you want things to happen super fast, you expect to flip £500 into $1 million in 3 months, then this video is probably not for you. Please click off the video or stay and learn something, because hopefully it's gonna provide that long-term mindset, give you some practical tips to take away and apply into your own trading that I'm going through right now as a trader as well. So starting things off, it's important that you recognize that trading is a business. It's not a hobby. You may come into trading thinking it's a hobby, but the more and more you develop as a trader and as an individual, you begin to realize that it is a business. You need to treat it that way in order to progress. And within a business, right, you have to think of the performance aspect. How a business runs, you have things that directly affect the business and you have things that indirectly affect the business in terms of performance, in terms of optimization and efficiency. So in terms of how to dive into that in trading, this is what we're going to go through. So starting off with direct. So what directly affects trading in a positive way? So I'm going to go into 3 things. So the main 3 things that I want to go into, firstly, is forecasting. So we have forecasting, review, so advanced self-review, and then we have backtesting as well. Excuse the handwriting. So we have 3 things there, right? I essentially call these the 3 trading essentials. So once you learn the strategy that you're trading and gain confidence with that strategy, it's more so about optimizing these 3 processes. So how can you optimize your forecasting? How can you optimize your advanced self-review? And how can you optimize your backtesting as well? So starting off with forecasting, so daily watch list. So if you're a trader right now, you most likely form a daily watch list for the day. Whether it's the start of the day, the end of the day, maybe both, probably like me. You plan the 2, 3, 4, 5 trades in advance before they materialize, and then when they do materialize, you then take them, right? Similar process, but forecasting is essentially in more detail. So rather than just flagging certain pairs that you're looking at going to the day ahead, we're actually getting into entries management, knowing exactly how you're going to enter the trade, what alternate entries are there going to be, how you're going to manage the trade once you get into it, and then we're practicing that over and over again. So that practice essentially is auto-suggestion. Those of you who are not familiar with the term, essentially it's ingraining a certain idea into your subconscious mind through repetition. So that's what we're trying to do with forecasting. The more and more you can do that, the more it's going to become second nature. And then if you planned a trade, if you planned dollar yen, for example, right, 5 times before it materialized, by the time that trade materializes, you're not going to have hesitation. You're not really going to have fear of missing out. You're then ready to take the trade because you've already taken the trade 5, 6, 7 times ahead of time in your mind. So that's the key process within this, and it's such a key practice to implement. So the next process I want to go into is backtesting. So we're going to leave review for a little bit because it's much more detailed than I want to go into on the whiteboard. I actually want to dive into the computer and show you some practical tips to take away, how I personally do it, how I optimize it, the sort of questions that I ask myself as a trader trying to break through to consistency. So hopefully this is going to help, hopefully it's going to provide value. But in terms of backtesting, first and foremost, why do you backtest in the first place, right? You backtest to learn the strategy. So whatever strategy you're trading, you backtest to learn the strategy, right? Secondly, you also backtest to gain confidence. Backtest to gain confidence, right? So in terms of your go-to setups, in terms of your entries, your management, like this is the things that you learn and you gain so much confidence through that process as a whole. Like if you, and essentially it's also a suggestion again, like repeating that process over and over and over again, backtesting so much data, collecting that data, knowing your edge plays out over time. Like there's literally so much data that you can collect within backtesting, but overall, like it just helps you grow as a trader, helps you learn the strategy, gains a lot of confidence within your trading. So massive process is backtesting. I've done a video on this in the past and I'll link a card up here somewhere so for you guys to check that out. But yeah, definitely want to dive into that in more videos in the future as well, which is going to be good. And the last process of this is advanced self-review. This is the things that again once directly affect the business. So advanced self-review is huge. So let's say ASR, because that's a shorter name for it. ASR. There's so many questions that you can ask yourself within ASR to optimize the certain business. Forecasting and backtesting is almost you working in the business. Backtesting is more on the business, to be fair. And then advanced self-review is more so you working on the business, right? Trying to optimize certain things, trying to see patterns within your trading, within the business to optimize growth and strength and stuff like that. So it's more so working on the business versus in the business. So that's the key with that. So I split my ASR into two different sections. Firstly, trades taken throughout the week, the month, or the quarter. Super important. You probably likely do that process as well. And then here's the process that majority of people miss: trades missed. Now, just to clarify, this isn't just any random trades that fit the strategy criteria. This is trades that fit your plan individually, but for some reason or another you haven't taken the trade, whether it's down to fear of missing out, whether it's hesitation, whether it's emotions of some sort, or lack of forecasting. Like, you need to dig into that and really figure out why. Otherwise, you're kind of blind. You don't know what you're working on, you don't know how to work on things, you don't know how to improve things. Like, in order to specifically dive into the things you need to work on, you need to ask yourselves those questions. So these questions involve, so starting off with trades taken, let's go into this first and foremost, and then we'll get into that. So questions start off simple. What you'll find with this is it's a filtering process. So you'll ask one question, you'll get an answer, and then it'll just be why, and you'll keep digging deeper until you find core reasons behind it. So you'll see what I mean. So firstly, did the trade fit your plan? If so, then did you manage effectively? Was your management congruent with your trading plan? If not, and if the trade wasn't within your plan, why did you take it? So, if not, why did you take it? I promise my handwriting is usually more neat than this. Right, fits plan. If not, why did you take it? That's where you get deeper. So was it emotions? Was there any emotions present? Fear of missing out, hesitation? Then you need to dig into that. So any emotions present? If so, you see how you just go down and down and down. So emotions present, say for example you have fear of missing out, then you go, okay, well, why do I have fear of missing out? Am I not comfortable with the strategy? Have I not backtested enough? There's something that I'm not familiar with in terms of the strategy that I need to learn? Or is it more of like the psychology aspect of maybe, I don't know, self-sabotage, limiting beliefs, or like deeper? You can just go so deep, but when you get those core answers, it's so much to work with rather than just like generalized stuff. Because if you're generalizing, you could probably say, oh, well, let's do some more backtesting, let's work through content. But if you know exactly what you need to work on, you can be a lot smarter and efficient with your time and work on stuff like this. So that's the key process. Second part, trades missed. So do not underestimate the power of this. It's equally as important, in my opinion, to do both. The downside is that it's going to be twice the work, right? So ASR, you have an ASR process that's naturally going to take, like, say, for an example, for a blind figure, let's say 2-3 hours, right? It's naturally going to be doubled if you do the trades that you missed as well. But you're going to get twice the results. Not always in terms of percentage growth, but in terms of growth as a trader and progression as a trader and as an individual. You're going to have so much data to work with and be able to, here's the key thing, right? Say for example, you're a break-even trader, right? So say for example, this is you here. I'm going to draw a stick man, let's just say you're at 0% right now, right? But the trades that you've missed within your plan for the month of August, let's say totals 18%, right? 18% profit. But you finished on 0%, right? The key psychology thing behind this process is that there's a gap between where you are right now, right, which is here, and where you want to be, which is the 18% plus, right? Without this process, you don't have a gauge, you don't have a yardstick to like kind of measure yourself against. Whereas if you do this process, you say, okay, well, I missed out on 80% this month, but how can I close that gap? You can reverse engineer the process and be like, right, okay, 18%, how do I work backwards and try and close this gap here between where I am now and where I want to be? That's the key thing there. So that's super important, but questions you can ask yourself within trades missed, very similar, just a different psychology. So why did you miss the trade first and foremost? Right? Did you forecast it? Did you forecast the trade? Very simple. If so, then why didn't you take it? So if you have forecasted the trade, there's likely a breakdown in the fact that you haven't forecasted enough, or there's a breakdown in your entries, so you need to work on entries. So it gives you direct correlation, gives you direct feedback to work on. Or if you haven't forecasted it, then you can just say, okay, well, there's your answer. You haven't forecasted the trade. Then you need to dig into more forecasting. You need to get more familiar with that process. Make sure you're on top of that process. So that's super important there. So in terms of questions, that's pretty much it. But I want to show you an example on the screen right now, and we're going to dig into it in more detail. I'm going to show you my process. Hopefully, you can learn from it, gain some value in some way for some of you, and yeah, if you apply any of this into your own trading and it benefits you, just please let me know. I'd love to hear that. But let's get into the screen. Quickly, I wanted to hop on here and actually share my process with a real life example of how you can actually optimize this in your real life in terms of trading. So let's hop into this. So in terms of the software that I use to use this, it's called Notion, and it's very clean, very easy to use. I'll link all the free templates down below for ASR that you can use. So feel free to take a look at those and actually utilize them for yourself within your own trading. Now, the two sections I want to focus on, ASR for trades taken and ASR for missed trades. So taking a look firstly at the ASR for trades taken, let's have a look at the template. So again, I will link this template below for you to use, and you can see here, here's the key part. So we have a mini section here, basically the results of the month, and then here's the key part. So we have symbol directions. So for example, we could have euro-dollar short, the date of the trade, profit or loss, grade of setup. So for me personally, within my strategy, we use valid setup or high probability setup, which is key. And then, is the trade congruent with your plan? Yes or no. A little section here on trade analysis. So a little summary of why you took the trade, any reasons as to why you took the trade, why it was incongruent with your plan, things like that. Any psychology. So at the time of the trade, did you feel any emotions present? Was there any fear of missing out, hesitation, anything like that? What this is going to help you to do is, say for example, you have 3 trades throughout the month that you all experience fear of missing out. You're then able to dig back through that and be like, right, okay, I can see a pattern within my trading. I'm experiencing fear of missing out. How can I dig deeper and actually figure this out? Which is where the questions come in. So why do you have fear of missing out? So this is where the detailed questions come into play. So that little section there is key. If there's any part of this where I would personally go into more detail, it will be the psychology part and the lessons learned. Overall, apart from those two, I try to keep it as simple as possible so that it's super easy to go back through and learn the lessons, which is the key part. So lessons learned. You're not always going to learn lessons from some trades. Some trades are just a probability model, but often trades you can learn from them as well, which is key. So whether it's a winner or a loser, you'll often have lessons to take away from that and apply into your trading going forward. This is a section for that. So that's key. Then we have the forecasting. So I take screenshots before I take a trade of the forecasted scenarios, which I'll show you in a minute, and that's where I put that in there, and then screenshots as well. So screenshots of the trade taken, I use a daily chart and the 1 hour chart or 15-minute chart, depending on the trade, at the time of the entry. And then once I've actually gotten out of the trade, whether it's a win, a break even or a loss, I'll then have a little screenshot on there. So let's take a look in the live markets as a live example of that. So taking a look at the live markets, just wanted to share this example. So here we've got pound Aussie short, 26th of August 2019, profit or loss was 3.1, and the grade of setup was a high probability trade. So looking at this, we've got a little section here on trade analysis, any emotions present. Here, no emotions present with the trade. I woke up, saw the pound Aussie development, which I planned for the night previously. That's the key part there. I'd already planned the trade in advance, so I knew what I was looking for. And then I put the audio on. So that was the key, biggest lesson, and then you got a lesson here. So what was that? Waking up at the same time every day so that I'm prepared for every trade. So yeah, that's the key. Any lessons learned within the trade, you can put that in that section there, just take away for yourself. And then here's where I go into detail. So forecasting, any forecasted scenarios that I'm looking at for the day ahead, that's where I put it in there. And then when the trade actually commits to itself and I take the trade, that's where I'll then put screenshots in like I explained before. So here we've got the daily chart on pound Aussie, and you can see the date August 26, 2019, and then the 1 hour chart. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, 1 hour chart, we've got that, and then the 15-minute chart we can see even clearer, we've got that. So took that trade, and then a little section here on trade management, and then managed to get out the trade for 3.1, I believe. Yeah, so 3.1, nice trade. And yeah, just wanted to highlight that, just that live example on this, and just to give you a more of an in-depth thought process of how you can actually let this out for yourself, and it's just super practical to see this for yourself in the live market. So hopefully that helps. Let's dig into some missed trades now, and I'll show you an example of that as well. So once again, for this template for missed trades, this will be in the description of this YouTube video down below, so definitely check that out for yourself to use for free. And we have here very same section as the trades taken. But the difference is with this is you need to dig in why. As I said before on the whiteboard, right? You need to ask yourself those questions. So if I missed a trade that was within my plan, I'd forecasted the trade. Why did I miss a trade? So here, was I forecasting this trade on this day? Yes or no? If I was forecasting the trade, why didn't I take the entry? That is the key question, because once you get that data, as I explained before, you're going to get more clarity on the things you need to work on. Any emotional state or lessons learned? Was there any fear of missing out? Was there any hesitation? Like, you need to dig deeper into those emotional side of things as well. Once again, forecasting, screenshots, trade management, super simple. Let's take a look in the live market. So let's pick a month. Let's say April. So April, I missed out on 12% profit here. You can see. So 2 trades. There would have been 2 wins, and I didn't take them. But you can see just this in the live markets, right? Was I forecasting this trade on this particular day? I was forecasting this trade, so it's like, right, okay, I was forecasting that trade. Why did I miss the trade? So here you can see I took a 1% loss prior to this trade materializing, which was a valid setup but not high probability setup, and basically it put me off really. So that's the why I didn't take the entry, and yeah, just trying to read this in the moment, but yeah. The lesson here is fail to prepare to fail. So it looks like I didn't focus in enough detail basically. But yeah, you just learn the lessons here, put the lessons in there. It's just good to see that, because then you're able to track it and actually move forward with your trading. So yeah, that's super good. It was actually a really nice trade this, but I didn't manage to capitalize on it. But yeah, you just see that data and then you can actually work with something rather than just being super generalized and not having things to work on. You can actually dive into this. So just wanted to jump on the screen and actually show you that in the actual how I use it and how I utilize this process. So hopefully that gave you a bit of an insight, offered value, and yeah, you feel free to use these templates for yourself. So at this point in time, we've covered some of the direct things that are likely going to affect the business. So we've got advanced self-review, forecasting, and backtesting. Super important processes. If you try and optimize all 3, it's just super beneficial for the trading and just growth as a trader in general. So you have to think about it in scale as well, right? If you have goals to trade, invest capital and build up your account manually, whatever it is, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever your goals are, right? You have to think of trading in terms of scalability and sustainability. So if you're thinking in that way, you're going to look to optimize certain processes over the long run, right? You're not in that get rich quick 3-month, £500 into a million mentality. Like, you want to optimize certain processes, routines, habits, things like that to get in that long-term mindset to ultimately scale the business. So that's the key thing. Now I want to get into indirect. So these are things that don't necessarily have a correlation to trading, but at the same time, if you dig a little bit deeper, it ultimately affects trading in some way or another. So it could be something as simple as like sleep, right? It doesn't necessarily have an effect on trading per se, but at the same time, not getting enough sleep is going to have an impact on your trading. So either way, it does have an impact. So starting off with health, and then we're going to start off with sleep, which you just mentioned. And then we're going to get into productivity as well. So sleep, if you're not optimizing sleep and you don't like have at least a basic knowledge of how sleep works and like the sleep cycles that come with it, you're going to likely not be able to optimize it as efficient as you could be. So right now, within my personal life foremost, I was feeling like I was having days where I feel super refreshed when I woke up, and I was having days where I was feeling groggy and feeling tired, and I was like trying to dig deeper and figure out why. It's because of the sleep cycles, likely. So we have 90-minute sleep cycles for those of you who don't know, who aren't aware, and within those 90-minute sleep cycles, you have 4 different stages of sleep and all kinds of hormones that are interactive within the sleep cycle as well. So if you can get at least 4 sleep cycles, arguably more, then it's going to obviously help you. But if you wake up during a deep sleep cycle, for example, you're not going to feel refreshed. You're likely going to feel groggy, unrefreshed, likely tired, and just throughout the day. So it makes a big difference. So if you can optimize your sleep and wake up in congruence with those sleep cycles, you're going to feel so refreshed. So here's how you work it out, right? Let's say, for example, you wake up, it's pretty simple anyway, but let's say, for example, you wake up at 6 a.m., right? Each day, say 6 days a week. And yeah, if you want to get 9 hours sleep, you're going to have to go to bed at 9 p.m., right? Pretty simple. If you want to get 7.5 hours sleep, still in congruence with those 90-minute sleep cycles, then you're going to have to go to bed at 10:30 p.m., right? And then to get 6 hours of sleep, it's going to be 12 a.m. So just by knowing that alone, you're able to go, okay, well, if I miss that, obviously it doesn't matter like a few minutes and things like that, but overall you can then play around with these figures, experiment with it, and try and optimize certain processes. So for example, to use that in a trading standpoint, if I'm up watching a trade, for example, at 10:30, 11 o'clock, I'm just going to wait till 12 to go to bed. Because if I go to bed at 11 or 11:30, I'm probably not going to optimize it as much as possible, and then I'm probably going to feel tired the next day. So it's just being aware of that, and it's not necessarily implementing this. You don't have to implement this, but it's just being self-aware in that respect of these kind of things. So that would be one thing to optimize. A good book recommendation as well is Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. Really good basic overview of how sleep works, some of the things you can optimize within sleep in general, so super beneficial. So one of the things he mentions is something called money time as well. So that would be one thing, optimize the sleep cycles. Number two is something that Sean calls money time. So this is essentially 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. in the evenings. So this is where you are likely to get the most hormonal secretion produced within your body and things like that for beneficials of health, things like that, and you're just going to feel so much better. So if you can at least get in bed by this time, obviously sometimes it doesn't correlate nicely, but thereabouts, like if you get majority of sleep within this time, then it's perfect. So that's something to bear in mind as well. The third and final thing that I want to mention as well is to have a period before bed where you switch off all electronic devices. Sean recommends 90 minutes, but I won't be doing that because I could be on the charts doing my daily watch list, especially around like 10 p.m, 10:30. That's around the time that I'm usually, before getting ready to bed, I'm usually doing into my daily watch list, my forecasting for the next day. So that isn't congruent with my routine personally. But if you can have like 30 to 45 minutes or even 15 minutes before bed where all the blue light is off, all the electronics are off, and you can just have that period where it's just peace and like you're just getting ready to bed. Because we've all had those nights, right, where you're scrolling through your phone, your laptop, whatever it is, those blue light affects melatonin levels, which ultimately affects sleep as well. So it's just being aware of that, and if you can switch off all electronic devices or at least put them in airplane mode, it's going to have a massive effect on sleep. So hopefully that helps in terms of sleep. I want to walk through one or two other processes that I put in place as well in terms of health. So the basic thing I want to cover as well is I drink distilled water. So you've probably seen it in my day in the life video, distilled water. Now I drink this the majority of the time, but I have like a 2 week on, 1 week off. So drinking distilled water obviously strips away all the minerals and stuff, but it does cleanse your body and stuff, so it's super beneficial. But you also need those minerals. So you usually get them in food anyway if you have a good varied diet. But just to be safe, I like do 2 weeks on, 1 week off. So I have 2 weeks on distilled water, and then I'll have 1 week off, which is tap water. But yeah, it's just shocking like what's in tap water and stuff. So if I can optimize health in one way, this is something that I've been doing because it's just such more beneficial for the body. The next obvious food is like good food and supplementation, right? So super simple. And again, it doesn't directly have an effect on trading, but how you do one thing is how you do everything. Plus, if you feel better and you think clearer, it's going to have an indirect effect on your trading, right? So you're just being aware of that. So good food and supplementation. So I currently eat I'd say like 90% vegan, so the only non-vegan food I eat right now is eggs, but apart from that I'm pretty much vegan, been vegan these past 2 years. On and off I've had like fish and like eggs in between and stuff like that, but more often than not I've been vegan, like plant-based. And in terms of supplementation, what I'm currently taking right now is magnesium, which has an effect on sleep to produce more melatonin, which is beneficial, vitamin D3, especially heading into winter or things like that, and then zinc as well. So that's currently what I'm taking right now. But that's that in terms of health. So many different ways we can go into it, but it's just worth doing some research, trying to optimize these things as much as possible. And you may not be interested in this stuff, but if it has an effect on your trading in a positive way, then it's worth actually doing some research or just being self-aware with it. So in terms of productivity, first and foremost, we have intermittent fasting, which ultimately comes under health as well. But in terms of health, right, I do a 16-8 split. So I've been doing my research over the last couple of months on this. I've actually been doing this since around March or April time, I believe. The first few weeks are hard because you naturally get hungry and stuff, but actually when your body adapts to it, then it's totally fine, and you really start to reap the rewards in terms of like focus and just overall health and stuff like that. So for me personally, I do a 16-8 split, so I do a 16-hour fast. Usually it's not an exact science, sometimes it'll be more, sometimes it's less, depending on the day, depending on how I'm feeling as well. but 16 hours fasted usually, and then an 8 hour window where I will then eat food, make sure I'm in a calorie surplus, especially if I'm trying to make gym progress as well, so super key. But yeah, in terms of health, the benefits behind it, do your own research behind it, see what you think for yourself. But if you get to that 16-hour mark, your cells start to rejuvenate. So they actually start to rejuvenate, replenish, get rid of all the toxins and just refresh themselves. So it's super beneficial. Definitely something to worth digging into and actually researching for yourself. In terms of productivity standpoint, in my experience, the first thing that I would usually do when I wake up is have breakfast, right? Usually oats to carb up, but what you'll find is that you have that initial insulin spike and then you'll just crash, pretty much like coffee, right? Some forms of coffee, you're gonna drink it and then you'll have that big crash, or energy drink similar to that. So it's the same with carbs. And I used to find that in terms of, from a focus standpoint and productivity, it was having a negative effect on me. So I wanted to dig into intermittent fasting, see if I could actually utilize it for myself. And I just noticed so much more focus from it. That aligned with an app called Brain FM as well. So definitely check this out, by the way. So I think it's free for the first 5 sessions and then it's paid after that, but it's super beneficial. Check out Brain FM, put it on with headphones, like you get so much more focus. It's actually like binaural beats and things like that for just a focused mindset. It's really good. So definitely try that out. Let me know what you think. That's in terms of intermittent fasting and Brain FM. Next thing I want to dive into is time and work blocks, which ultimately digs into this as well, daily goals. So pretty much very, very similar. So daily goals, if you set 3 to 5 daily goals per day for something that's going to actually get you closer to those quarterly, 6-month, yearly goals, then it's super beneficial. It could be something in terms of trading, like backtest 2 months of data on pound dollar, like you'll see in previous videos within mine. But overall, if you have 5 daily goals that are aligned with your quarterly and yearly goals, things like that, then it's going to be super beneficial. And that could be interlinked with time and work blocks. So if you can schedule a period of time during the day, let's say you're a full-time trader or a part-time trader or even full-time working, right? You only have a certain amount of time during night. Let's say you work full-time, let's say you're a 9 to 5, right? By the time you get home, you only have a certain amount of time to trade and like learn and develop as a person, things like that. So ultimately time management is so key. But if you actually utilize work blocks and time blocks, super important. So set a period of time for each task. So if you have 5 daily goals, right, that could take you 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is. But if you set a period of time for that goal and then work towards it, tick it off, have a break after it, make sure you're fresh. That's a super important thing. Try and avoid that burnout period of like work hustling for 6 hours and just not feeling refreshed. So super important that you try and benefit yourself over the long term and try and refresh and stuff like that. But if you can utilize that with daily goals and actually set a period of time during the day for each task, you'll find that you get a lot more done. And if you do that in the mornings, interlinked with intermittent fasting, which increases focus, along with Brain FM and daily goals, like you're just setting a good foundation for yourself. And I utilize all this now. Obviously it's been a never-ending process. Started off with this, then this, then this, then this pretty much, but it's good to intermix all these because it has a massive effect on productivity. So give that a go. Hopefully that helps. Really enjoyed this video. Hope you did too. And yeah, speak to you all soon. Have a go for this for yourself and let me know how you find it. So yeah, have a good week and I'll speak to you soon. With